Awesome. Congratulations on the show.
Thank you.
Me and my wife started it yesterday. Well, I started it yesterday. About 10 minutes later, my wife came in. We sat down. Didn't stop watching it. That was like Bank Holiday Monday, literally watching all of the show.
You watched all of them? All 9?
Blitzed.
Wow.
Yeah, we got it early, obviously, because we were talking to you, so we blitzed it. It's hard. I was talking to the guys. It's kind of hard to talk about the show in the sense that there's obviously lots of spoilers, and the story goes in a certain way. But I wanted to ask you about kind of getting involved in the first instance, because obviously it's based on books in another language, from another country, and everything else. So what was the lure in the first instance for you in terms of not just being part of it, but to bring it over to these parts?
Because I love the way you guys do those kinds of shows. And I thought, that the whole Scandi noir, the books and the films, I really enjoy them, but I realized what happens here, like with Happy Valley or with, Broadchurch, or even going back to Prime Suspect, is there are deeper, more complex characters. It's not just dark situations. The people are so interesting, and they're all kind of in the gray area. Sometimes they're all dealing with their own nonsense, and also there's a sense of humor frequently too. And I thought, this could really, I love these shows. I'd love to make one because I love watching them, and I thought it would be perfect to do it that way.
Why Scotland, not England, may I? Because obviously some of those shows you mentioned are obviously very predominantly British.
Rob Bullock, who produced the show and who convinced me to, because I'd had the rights for 15, 16 years. I had the rights for a long time. And they were just sitting there, and I was shooting something else, and he came to visit and said, "Let me help you do this." And he came up with the idea of doing it in Edinburgh, and once I was there, I thought, oh God, this is perfect. I love it. What a beautiful city. What a great place. I haven't seen a lot here. Let's do it here.
That is, I've been there a few times on holiday. It's just remarkable. And watching it, I was thinking to myself, there's lots of stuff shot in Edinburgh, but more often than not, Edinburgh is used to substitute for something else, big movies.
Or they shoot in Glasgow for Edinburgh, which is really interesting to me.
So it was nice to see it come to life. Yeah. For you as a filmmaker, when you got there and you saw the environment and stuff, did it kind of change how you saw you shooting it? Did the locations kind of make you...
No, it amplified, because I had always described the show as I didn't want to do a super dark, blue-tinged, the way a lot of these things are. I wanted it to be, I thought it could be actually beautiful like the city. Like you could bring all that out, and then you have these things that are happening underneath it that would be really interesting. So when I saw Edinburgh in particular, I thought, oh, this will work great for that, because I really want it to be, I don't want it to be gritty. I want it to have a different feeling that pulls you in a way that makes you empathize with the characters instead of you're sort of watching it from a distance, almost like a documentary. Some of these, like shows I love, like Line of Duty, one of my favorite shows. It's a different style, but I love it. But I wanted to do, since that's already done it really well, or The Wire in America or other shows, I thought maybe we could do it where it feels designed and interesting but real.
How have you found working in television? Because obviously back in your early career, you've worked on movies like Out of Sight, for example, and those kind of movies are much rarer these days in the cinematic landscape. So moving to television, were you scared about it all, trepidatious about it, or actually does it actually work for what the stories that you want to tell now?
Well, Out of Sight wouldn't get made today. Most of the movies I wrote early on would probably be TV series. Even Minority Report was a TV series. Someone turned it into a show. But going back to Little Man Tate or Dead Again, Get Shorty, none of them get made today, I don't think, as movies, because I think the target is trickier and people are trying to calculate or figure out what a movie is. So it was an easy transition because it was with Godless, which I'd written as a movie in 2004, and couldn't get it made. Nobody wanted to make a Western, and Netflix said, we're looking for a Western. And so I gave them that one, and I ended up retooling it as a limited series. And there were all kinds of material I had that I couldn't use in the film, in the feature, so I brought it all to bear on the limited series. And I didn't change the story so much as I expanded the middle of it and told more of the characters' individual stories and so on that I hadn't done in the feature. And I love doing it. I shot it just like a movie. I didn't shoot it episode by episode. I shot it location by location. So it didn't feel any different to me. It didn't feel like a transition. It's just when I'm in the editing room, I'm editing it into episodes.
Tell me about casting Matthew, because I know you worked with him before on Lookout, and he's one of those actors that he's always good in anything he does. He's one of those chameleons, particularly for a British actor who, he's done Downton Abbey, and he does stuff in America and everything else, and does Watchmen and everything else. So was he always your choice for this, or was there a little bit of kind of you tossed the net out a bit to see who you could get, or was he always kind of the
He's
first
always
choice?
who I saw for this. I wasn't sure I could get him, or I wasn't sure that Netflix would want him. You never know. But in my mind, because I know Matthew, I knew he could do this. This was just right in his wheelhouse. I could see him doing it. And, he plays a lot of posh people. And when I met him, he had a shaved head. He had just done Match Point. He shows up in a leather jacket. And because when Marsha Ross, the casting director on The Lookout, said, "What about Matthew Goode?" And I'm like, "The Match Point guy? No, he's like a posh guy." And then in walks this guy who'd been partying all night, who was charming, slightly dangerous. And I went, "Oh, wow, there's a whole other thing going on here." And we had a ball. He was also in a scene in Godless that we cut at the very end. He was in a coda that turns out we didn't need the coda, but he was amazing in that too. He played a sheriff. He was in the Old West, and he was terrific.
Did not know that. That's a nice little nugget.
Yeah.
I like that. And the rest of the cast, I mean, it's an incredible ensemble of seasoned actors who people will go, "Oh, okay." But then these other guys who you're kind of like, "Wow, these new people that have done little bits here and there are just extraordinary in these roles." Tell me about the long process. Was it a long process to find some of those guys, or did you settle on people quite quickly?
Well, you know it when you see it. When you see someone and they really get your attention, you're in good shape. And the people, I love people who have their physical being as a character in and of itself, where even without speaking, they're telling a story. And so I'm always saying to my wife when we're watching something, I'm going, "What a great face, what a great face," and a great face is something, it's not beautiful or just beautiful. It's just there's a person there, and you just see the specificity of that person. And so that's what I'm always on the make for.
In terms of the filmmaking, you make a very specific choice to shoot, I won't go into spoilers, but shoot a portion of this show with a different aspect ratio. Mm-hmm. I just wondered whether that was partly because of the location that it's set in, or whether that was a dramatic choice, or how did you settle on kind of the change for those moments?
Both. I think it was a dramatic choice. It felt like the right aesthetic, and it felt like we should be in a different world now. And I thought, let's be in the world of the person we're watching. And it's somebody who's always alone for the most part. So I thought it could be a really interesting way to just subtly, people may or may not notice it. And one could argue that we probably could have even paid it off better by had even more of a reason for it. But I just felt like watching it that way just subtly made me feel more a part of the world that this character was in.
And the first episode, you play with the kind of narrative in terms of the structure of it.
Yes.
Again, I don't want to give any spoilers away, but was that again a deliberate choice? Because watching the episode, you obviously your brain is kind of going one way, and then all of a sudden it dovetails into something else, and you're kind of like, "Oh my god!" Was that something that you'd had written, or something that you then did in post? Or
no, it was always, even going back 15 years, it was always the idea, the only way to have that moment, that great moment when you realize, oh wait. So it was always part of the design. It was always part of the design from the beginning. It was how do you disguise it? That was the trick. How do you keep the sleight of hand going, and you want to make it look like, oh, these two people are going to end up working together or something else, and so that was the trick.
I was noticing your T-shirt. I did want to ask you. Me and my wife absolutely cackled at the the Jesus Christ Terminator T-shirt, which I was just like, how is this not selling thousands and thousands of copies anymore? Was that something you guys designed, or did you find it somewhere?
Sharon, the costume designer, found it, and I saw it and just went, okay, that's amazing. That's amazing. I love it. And it's very subtle. I mean, I watch it and I go, oh, I could have shot that better, so you really see it. On the day, I remember thinking, oh, it's great. It's you can't miss it. But you really have to pay attention to go, oh, wait a minute, that's Jesus Christ as the Terminator saying, I'll be back. I mean, it's so perfect.
Genuinely, at the beginning, I just thought it was, I was like, oh, that old cop's wearing a Terminator. Wait a minute, that's not Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Because he's also, they described him as he found Jesus and so on. So
such a good moment, I have to say. And you've obviously told this story now, and there are other books as well. Is this something you would like to pursue if the show obviously takes off and everything else, to do more? Do you have a plan in your head yet, or you just...
I do have a plan. It's the first time I've ever done something. The other shows were clearly limited for me. Queen's Gambit, Monsieur Spade, Godless, they all were, for me, one and done. Monsieur Spade, I could have done another season. I had a great idea for that, but nobody watched it. So we would be, once again, in the case of my career, answering questions no one is asking. So, but this, when I did this show, I really thought this could live for 5-6 seasons, and I'd love to do another one myself as well. I'd love the second book in some ways is even more interesting than the first book.
Yeah, I mean that trio is gold.
They're
so if you get to take off again, that would be great.
Yeah.
Scott, lovely to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time.
You too, Scott.
Pleasure. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey, you guys!
Hey, you guys!
Hey, that's what they all say.
Hey, you guys!
Hey!